Larry Sharpe has traveled the country and has personally visited every county in New York State, listening to people's concerns. The Sharpe Way is a show where answers, solutions, and common ground can be found so that together we can forge a new way forward. The Sharpe Way is the way to mutual respect, where no one has to convert to be heard, because you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want, as long as you aren't forcing your beliefs on others. Welcome to Sharpe Way Radio.
Hey, it is Larry Sharpe here on WYSL Rochester, New York, Sharpe Way Radio. You can call in if you want to say hi to me, or not even that, just to say some stuff. 585-346-3000. It does matter to have the conversations that I have all the time here. It does matter. But you probably heard some pretty big news over the weekend, Friday, and yesterday. A couple banks were under. One of them was here in New York. There was the bank in California that went under, the big boy. And then there was also Signature Bank here in New York State, the second and third largest bank failure since 2008. So it's a big deal. Right? Maybe not. Maybe not now. Maybe next week, next month, next year. Who knows? But it reminded me of my own story. Many of you know, if you've listened to me throughout the years, that I had a hard time in 2010, about 12, 13 years ago. And it happened not in 2010, meaning the buildup to my collapse and then my problems in 2010 didn't happen in 2010. The buildup began in 2008. In 2007, 2006, I was doing really well. And I mean, I had an office on 3rd Avenue, had a training center in my office, couple employees, all in Manhattan, lots of big clients. Life is good. Money is just flowing. I'm feeling good. But then some people started showing me that there may be some cracks popping up here. And some of my clients started to pull back a little bit by 2008. But I thought, I'm smart. I can figure this out. Come on. I got this in the bag. I started my business in 2004. And by 2008, 4 years later, I'm killing it. Obviously, I am indestructible. Obviously, I am perfect. I can never make a mistake. And I made some massive mistakes. One of the things that happened is, as things started to get bad, banks wanted very much to loan their money out. People started to get over leveraged. I was one of those people. The banks came to me. I was a business client. I had money in my bank, right? I had payroll, right? So I was one of their guys. They came to me and said, hey, Larry, you want $100,000? I'm not joking. They literally said, you want $100,000? We'll loan it to you. Why not? And I thought to myself, why would you just offer me $100,000? Like, why would you do that? I don't get it. And they're like, no, because we love you. And I was like, okay. And I took the $100,000 as a loan. That was a mistake. I should not have done that, but I did. And I did for many reasons. One, to be forward, none of them were the right reasons, but there were absolutely reasons. One of them was, well, my revenue was starting to go down because in 2008, we were seeing the crash begin to hit. And a lot of my customers were in finance and law and tech, and they were already seeing the slowdown, and they were slowing down. So my revenue was slowing down. So I said, well, I'll just take this $100,000. That'll cover me. I'll be set. I'll reinvest in the business. I'll be ready to go. Life is good. That's what I thought. I also thought, look, these banks, they're smart bankers. I know you're laughing at me right now. I know you are. But that's what I thought. They're smart bankers. They wouldn't give me the money unless they knew I could pay it back, right? They don't make mistakes like that. They're bankers. Yeah, sadly, I bought that. And you might say, Larry, you don't usually seem too naive or dumb. And I would argue that I was no more naive or dumb than anybody else. But what was real is I believed it because I wanted to believe it. I wanted to believe that the bankers trusted me. I wanted to believe that I could get past anything. I wanted to believe that I was unstoppable. So I believed it. It wasn't true. 2 years later, I lost everything, still had tons of debt. Everything was bad. I'd reboot my entire business, fire my employees. And I have fired people in the past, many people in the past. And most of them, I had no problem doing it. And it may sound cruel, I know, but most people, it was a good move for both of us to be fired. But the people I fired this time, I hated doing it. And it still bothers me to this day. And it's 13 years ago. And it still bothers me because I had to fire those people, not because they messed up or they weren't a right fit or anything like that. It was because I screwed up and I had to get rid of them because I screwed up. Man, does that still bother me right now? And I fired many people that they still bother me. 2 women, young women, I still remember, and it sucked. It still bothers me. But I had to. There was no choice. I lost my office. I had to reboot everything. Why do I tell you this story? Because my worry is we are close again. And these banks going under, don't get me wrong, the government's very savvy. Not because they love us, they don't. Because they love themselves. And so they will try to cover things up and pretend all that stuff is going to be okay and they've got it prepared. And to be forward, they are better than they were in 2008. That is accurate. They're better at covering things up. They're better at putting on Band-Aids, and they're better at lying than they were in 2008. 100% true. But my worry is this is going to affect us all. Heavy debt is never a good thing. Debt sometimes is a good thing, depending upon what you're doing in your life, how you're investing that money. Debt can be a good thing. Depends upon what's happening in your life. Heavy debt is never a good thing, ever. And we are there. Personal debt, professional debt, commercial debt, and government debt. This is not a good thing. You might go, but Larry, I have a job, and maybe you do. Good for you. I hope you keep it. Larry, I have a business. I hope you do, and I hope you keep it. But my worry is that once one of these dominoes begins to fall, the others begin to fall too. That is my worry, that you might be fine. Because I thought I was fine until I realized that I had 2008, 2009 now. 2 of my biggest industries that I had were investment banking and commercial real estate. Those two things, commercial real estate and investment banking, together went down so fast, I couldn't recover. That's my worry. And my worry, believe it or not, is office space. Office space. Yes, you might go, Larry, why do I care about office space? Because office space is often financed through big finance and commercial real estate companies and commercial real estate financiers. And when all of a sudden they can't get that money, it's going to affect everything else. They're going to start calling in debts. They're going to start making the banks collapse. And all of a sudden, what you saw happened at the other bank over there in California, all of a sudden now, someone can't make payroll. You might go, Larry, does that really matter? Yes, because once someone can't make payroll, now people can't get paid. And once they don't get paid, so many Americans are 1 or 2 or 3 paychecks away from big trouble. Now they can't pay their credit card. Now they can't pay their rent or their mortgage. Now we got problems. That is what I'm worried about. So you might say to yourself, Larry, do I really care about these banks? I think we should. We should be worried. You, right now, should be concerned. I'm not giving you financial advice because I might get in trouble. I'm just telling you what I would do if I were you. I would start saving, and maybe not in banks. That's all I'm saying. But if I am going to save in banks, I might save in multiple banks if I were you. That's all I'm saying. If I were you, I think there is an issue. I think we've learned almost nothing from 2008, 2009, 2010. I think we're going to see a lot of pain, and we got to be ready for it. Am I wrong? Have I learned nothing? Tell me. 585-346-3000. Larry Sharpe, WYSL, Rochester, New York, Sharpe Way Radio, back with your calls and your chat after the break.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Inside the Taylor Laboratories.
Hey, Tony, what you doing?
A little experiment, Zach. Look what I have under the microscope.
Ugh, what's that?
A sample of indoor air.
How can it be that dirty? Don't AC and furnace filters help?
Only with dust, Zach. But when Taylor installs a whole house APCO air purifier to detox the air, odors, chemicals, mold, bacteria, and viruses are removed.
For clean indoor air.
Yep. Ain't science awesome?
Taylor, 500 help.
With incompetent, devious Washington and Albany leadership and a corrupt corporate media that uses news and social to control and mislead, it's important to preserve freedom of speech and to promote a truth-based society for our families. Try something different in 2023. The WYSL stations can grow your business, professional practice, or organization, so allocate your ad dollars here. Take advantage of a huge audience, entertained and informed by leading conservative thought. Affordable and effective. The WYSL stations, the voice of liberty. Call 346-3000 to advertise.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Yes, it is Larry Sharpe back here on Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York, 585-346-3000. For the break, I was talking a lot about my own failures in 2008, 9, and 10, and how they began to slowly step up. And my worry about that happening now, I am concerned. So let me grab, if I could, a couple of comments who are out in the chat. Sam asks, the same experts, he puts in air quotes, that said there was no recession or inflation are crying the need a massive stimulus bailout. Funny how the Monty printer only benefits the establishment elites. You know, Sam, you bring up a very valid point. Right? There are people who are angry about what happened in East Palestine and how a lot of money didn't go out to those people, but money went right out to the people from the bank, the depositors. Now, in theory, I like the idea of supporting the average depositor. I do, in theory. I like the idea that there's a $250,000 insurance, FDIC. The average American does not have any more than $250,000 in an account, right? The average American has nowhere near that, but surely not more than that. These guys had millions, and some of them had hundreds of millions in these banks. But I also get the logic, and the logic is many of these are trying to meet payroll, which is often to, more average Americans. However, in this case, the payroll isn't to more average Americans. Some, but most of these people are actually very expensive, highly educated, highly specialized talent. The average American isn't getting payroll from these companies. It's tech companies. The average American doesn't work for a tech company. So this is the elite. This is the elites, both in the business model and also in the workers. The workers here are more elite workers. Not that I'm against them either, but the point is most of the people in East Palestine were not elite workers. Are not elite workers. So I definitely get that response, that issue. I get it completely. So yeah. The other thing though is you will hear me say this often, and I'm gonna go off to a tangent a little bit, Sam, but I think it's a good point. Many of you know that I support the reform of family court here in New York State, how it breaks up families, and while it beats up women, it beats up men far worse than women. And I talk about this, how it's got to stop breaking up families, and how it's got to stop crushing men. And it crushes men worse than it crushes women. Again, it does crush women too, but it does crush men more. And I talk about it often. People say, Larry, why does nobody else talk about it? Sam, this is your point. The father who's been broken up and busted up in family court is not a good donor base. Why? Because they have no money. Why do they have no money? It's either gone to the court or to their family or to lawyers. They don't have any money to donate. Most of them don't have time because they have to have 2 or 3 jobs and then try to get to court and then try to spend time with their kids. So they're not a good donor base. So politicians don't care about them. I do, because I'm a human being who understands what it is to get your butt kicked. I've seen it. It's happened to me more than once. I get it. And people need to get back up, and someone has to help people get up sometimes. And how can I fix the state if I have an army of broken men who've been broken by the state? So yeah, I stand up for them. So why are people not standing up for East Palestine? They're nowhere near a good enough donor base as some tech gurus who all make 6, 7, or 8 figures every single year, who can easily donate thousands of dollars to these politicians. And more importantly, they themselves can set up PACs with millions of dollars in them to support these politicians. I know that sounds horrible, but it's true. So that's the real point. The elites are also the experts. So yes. Dave says, the banking crisis will only affect New York depositors if they have over $250,000 on deposit and then I have additional insurance. On those deposits, Dave, and I'm not worried about that. Right? That was my point earlier. Don't care about that. I care about what happens when people can't match payroll. What happens when companies can't make payroll? That is my worry. And that was the concern about that bank crash, right? What happens when people now are the massive businesses and their officers in trouble? No. Literally, even if those companies lose all their money, they're not gonna. To Sam's point, they're not gonna. But let's say they do. They wipe out all the company assets. The individuals have personal assets, all of them, in excess of 7 figures. None of them are gonna be poor on the street selling pencils. None of them. They're all gonna make their payments for their cars. They may not be able to buy their 3rd house. I mean, I guess we could feel sorry for them, I guess. I don't know. You can't buy your 3rd house? Okay, that's maybe. But that's it. And they all know each other. So they'll just start over with someone else's money again. So I'm not worried about the big heavy hitters in these companies. Even if their companies were to go under, they're not going to be poor. They already said, in case you didn't know, they got their bonuses literally a week before the bank went under. So they're fine. They're good. They'll be fine. I'm worried about the average person, Dave, who all of a sudden now can't get paid for 3 or 4 weeks. There's someone right now, probably more than one person right now, Dave, who's listening to this or watching this and saying to themselves, if I didn't get a paycheck for 4 weeks, I'd be in trouble. And that person is not alone. That is what I'm worried about. That is my concern. So yes. Joe says, they wouldn't have had a great job and experience without you either, Larry. Thank you for trying to make me feel better about my employees. I appreciate that. But it does still sting, if that makes sense. Jamir says, decentralization. Yes, yes, and yes. I've been speaking about this for years, and you're 100% correct. Decentralization in banking, decentralization in savings and loans, decentralization in money. Yes, yes, and yes. If one thing fails, the others don't. And that's the critical piece. I don't want a domino effect. And we're set up for exactly that. You are right. Absolutely. Yes. So what's one way we can fix this? And there are people, and funny, they're on the right now. Usually the right's all against bailouts. To Sam's point, they're all about bailouts now. All about it. So they want to bail all these guys out. And then people on the left say, oh, bail them out, but we have to now have more insurance. We have to make sure the government insures more than $250,000. They have to insure $1 million or $10 million or whatever is the number. But if you're on the left, you're supposed to keep with the little guy. I mean, you don't, but you're supposed to, right? You at least, you tell us this. You say that. What little guy needs more than $250,000 of insurance? You are by default not a little guy. If you're like, yeah, I'm poor, I have $300,000 in the bank. You are literally not poor if you have that kind of money in the bank. So I'm not sure where they're going with this. Here is the actual simple answer. And I've talked about this for years. We actually don't want more regulation. What? Larry, libertarian saying that? I know. We don't. We need simpler regulation. And the simple regulation is bringing back the Glass-Steagall Act. And you might go, Glass-Steagall Act? What the hell is that? That was basically an act that said bankers, financial institutions have to make a decision. Are you a savings and loan or are you an investment bank? That's it. You can only be one or the other. One or the other. And that is a good idea. It's voluntary. You put a bunch of money together, you want to be a financial institution, you decide to be a savings and loan, or you decide to be an investment bank. What's the difference? Savings and loans were insured because they weren't risky. Savings and loans, for those of you as old as me, remember this, back in the day, they used to only be really for safe loans like mortgages and car loans and your savings account, CDs, right? Those types of things. They were safe, they were boring, but who cared about insurance? They rarely went under. Sometimes it did, but it was rare. And your mortgage would be there. Your life insurance would be there, right? Because that's safe. And investment banks will be for people who want to risk. Go into the market, buying and selling bonds, buying and selling companies, all good. What most people don't know, particularly if you're my age or older, or don't really get it, is now your life insurance, your mortgage is in the market. Why do you think when you go to a retail bank right now, all they care about is selling you products? That's it. Can I get you some life insurance? Can I get you to buy this? Can I get you to buy that? Again, for those of you old enough, you remember when you used to go to a bank, all they wanted was like your checking account and savings account. That's kind of it. Maybe a CD. In fact, they would reward you for opening up an account. I still remember I got an electric can opener. I'm not joking. In the 80s, I got an electric can opener. I gave it to my mom. It's true. The world is changing tremendously, but we can fix it. Not with more regulation, but with simpler regulation. The elites are always winning. Am I right? Tell me, 585-346-3000. Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. Back with your calls and more of your chat after the break.
For truth and freedom.
WYSL.
AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. Area-wide snow will taper off to flurries overnight. Total accumulations will be in that 3 to 6 inch range, less west, more east before all is said and done. Heading into Wednesday, we're looking at mostly cloudy skies, still breezy and chilly in the 30s, milder 40s on Thursday. Could be near 50 with a bit of rain on St. Patrick's Day Friday. I'm Rich Cadelia, WYSL.
FM Talk.
Are you thinking about Medicare insurance? Navigating Medicare and all of its coverage options doesn't have to be confusing. I can help. My name is Dave Moskowitz, and I'm an agent authorized to offer AARP Medicare plans from United Healthcare Insurance. It's my commitment to provide you with personal, knowledgeable service and help you better understand Medicare and all your coverage options. There's a variety of competitive plans that may meet both your needs and your budget. And as a licensed insurance agent in Rochester, New York, I'd be happy to meet with you in person through video conference or by phone to address any questions about your unique healthcare coverage needs. Don't delay. Call me, Dave Moskowitz, at 585-820-5217 so I can help you choose a plan with confidence and discover what may make AARP Medicare plans from United Healthcare a great choice for you. That's 585-820-5217.
United Healthcare Insurance Company or an affiliate, collectively United Healthcare, pays royalties to AARP. AARP is not an insurer and does not employ or endorse agents, producers, or brokers. AARP encourages you to consider your needs when selecting products and does not make product recommendations for individuals.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Okay, we got a couple calls. First up will be Craig.
I'm Steve Tasker.
It's Craig Miles, Craig from Clinton.
Largely untapped pool of skilled job seekers. It's called the employment.
Then when you wrap up with him, we'll have Roger from Nassau.
New talent to businesses by matching people who have disabilities with employment opportunities. The Employment Alliance works with businesses to find talent and offer on-site job coaching. They'll also work with your business to develop individualized training plans, support diversity initiatives, and enhance your community connection and customer base. More than 100 area businesses have already benefited from working with the Employment Alliance. Even better, they're giving people with disabilities the opportunity to do meaningful work and demonstrating that they value equal opportunity and diversity. The Employment Alliance is a proud part of Heritage Christian Services. To learn more, visit hcsemploymentalliance.org.
A great springtime is in store with blue skies, green grass, and your new ride from Victor Chevrolet. Check out these great lease specials. Get the all-weather capability of a 2023 Chevy Silverado LT Crew Cab for just $359 a month for 36 months. Must-have lease and household. Residual $37,061. MSRP $52,945. 10,000 miles per year. A 2023 Chevy Equinox LS is only $179 a month for 27 months. Must-have lease and household. Residual $19,552. MSRP $30,080. 10,000 miles per year. A 2023 Chevy Trailblazer LT is $179 a month for 27 months. Must have lease and household. Residual $17,660. MSRP $25,595. 10,000 miles per year. These deals require $2,500 down. First payment and DMV fees due at closing. Get more details at dealer. And don't forget, Victor Chevrolet has an unbeatable pre-owned selection. Whether you drive a Chevy or not, trust your vehicle to our Chevy Certified Service Department. Come see how easy it is to do business with us. Find new roads at Victor Chevrolet, Route 96 in Victor. Visit VictorChevrolet.com.
Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten Free Bakery has a great deal on Tuesdays. A large 4-topping pizza for $18, regular or gluten-free. Call 226-9575. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten Free Bakery in Avon.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
It is Larry Sharpe here on WYSL, Rochester, New York, Sharpe Way Radio, 585-346-3000. So glad you give me a small chunk of your afternoon. We've been talking about debt, people surviving the debt, how we can make things better if at all possible. I've got a couple of calls I want to grab. Number one, if I could grab Craig from Clinton. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you, Larry?
What's going on, my friend?
Oh, well, I hear you talking about the big crash that's going to come, and it is going to come. Don't listen to MSNBC or Fox or whoever says it's not. We're here.
Crazy. MSNBC is always right.
Yeah, they're just like CNN. They know everything.
They know everything. Correct.
Yeah. So when you said the thing about savings and loans, it's snowing here in central New York. It's a blizzard. And those two things remind me of It's a Wonderful Life. And
yes,
that film gets crapped on all the time for being socialist nonsense. But I actually view it as the exact opposite, because the ones that bailed George Bailey out in the end are his friends, are his family, are all the people that care about him because he's been a good person. Yes, it's literally the opposite of socialism. So,
yes.
So my point is, if you watch the rest of that film too, the Bailey brothers building a loan is the only thing there keeping the evil capitalist, Mr. Potter, from owning everything. And he's literally centralization. He goes and he buys the bank when the market crashes. And he says, George, we're the only ones that kept our heads, and it's like there it is right there spelled out however many years ago, 1937, that film was made or something like that. Like we know that local is right and that the big evil bankers and the big evil corporations are wrong. And yet it's almost 100 years later and we still are surprised when the evil capitalists don't pay for the screw ups and we get left holding the bag, and then we want to go to them to help us.
Well, no, the thing is, I don't actually think it's capitalist versus government. I think it's the whole idea of what Ymir said, which is centralization, right?
Yes.
Whether the monopoly is a government monopoly or a bank monopoly or a private bad guy monopoly, the monopolies are bad, right? Localization, community, decentralization, more choices, more options is always going to be a better choice, right? But there will still be bad guys locally. There'll still be bad people who want to take everything over. That's human nature. But the problem is now when you have government literally helping the local bad guy, I mean, he's unstoppable.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. What was I going to say? Yeah. I guess the distinction between the capitalists and the government, I view them as the same thing, so that went without saying for me, so I didn't make that distinction.
Gotcha.
That's my fault.
Okay.
But they're essentially the same. I mean, how many times do we have to see it? Big Pharma is the FDA. The EPA is the evil people that paid them off so that when they spill stuff in Ohio, they're not responsible. Same
Correct.
thing here. We play fast and loose with everybody's money. And Uncle Joe writes us a check and says, don't worry, taxpayers. This is the stuff that nonsense, Joe. Taxpayers are on the hook. You're bailing them out, just like big government does with big business in every other single situation ever.
I have nothing to say to that, Greg. I appreciate your call, brother.
Thank you, sir.
All righty. Have a good one. He's right. Monopoly is not good no matter what, right? Since when is monopoly good? government monopoly,
Roger.
or private sector monopoly. Both wrong. Let me grab another call if I can. I'm going to grab Roger from Nassau. Roger, how are you?
Who? Larry Love.
That's me.
Remember that? Larry Love.
I remember. Absolutely.
You gotta. By the way, I'm waiting for that book for you to write what it was like growing up in the South Bronx in the '70s as hip hop was growing. Someone like yourself to see it with your eyes, with who was there.
That's what people think to this day. They think hip hop came out of LA's. It came out of the Bronx.
I never heard anyone say it came out of LA. But
the younger people think so because they know West Coast.
Oh, all right. So we haven't done our job at educating. But check this out. This is the reason why the governor and the Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins need to pass the New York Public Banking Act, which would give home rule to the little municipalities to start to charter their own public banks. Because you was just talking about decentralization of power and so on and so forth. You see what I'm saying? Now, let me tell you a little thing. Sabrina from Sabrina Salvati, who was RBN, I had recently got Peter Winslow from Philadelphia Public Financing Authority from the Philadelphia Public Banking Coalition on a show. You check it out sometime. They passed they passed the law for Philadelphia to have a public bank. The only problem is the mayor is refusing to implement it because he wants to be the sole person to appoint everybody to it. But the thing is,
hold on. Let me touch this piece if I could, Roger. I'm glad you bring this up. Some people listening may not understand exactly why you care about this so much, but I think we are on the same page here. Creating localized public banks means local people can create their own banks. Meaning the government can even create, a county can create its own bank, right? A town can create its own bank if it wants to. This is very helpful for local people who know each other. However, to what Roger's saying is many of the people who are in charge don't want that to be democratically elected. They don't want the people to actually have control over it. They want the executive to have the control over it so they can decide who can be on the board, how they can give out jobs, and they can still keep control of it. And both Roger and I are saying, no, this has got to be democratic. Keep going, Roger. I'm sorry.
So California, Newsom, he passed, and I'm not like, hey, Democrat, I'm an independent. So, but I'm just saying Newsom passed the.
Oh, I'm sorry. When I said Democratic, I meant little d Democratic.
I know what you meant. I was just saying Newsom in California, right? And I don't want to be construed that I'm a Democrat. I'm an independent, so I'm not like praising anything Newsom does. But he did do something that was good, which is he passed a home rule law that allows for the commissioning, the chartering of 10 regional public banks across the state. And the California Public Banking Alliance is doing it. So there's like 5 different regions that are trying to do like public banks. Some of them already passed it, like a veto-proof majority. San Fran, LA is almost there. So they're doing the thing. Okay, they're on their way.
Roger, to be forward, there's many times where people who are Democrats or Republicans do something that's good. And I don't think we should, be mad at them. We should praise any good behavior.
I praise that.
Right? I'm with you.
I praise that.
Yep. Absolutely. So I'm glad. I'm even okay. I know some libertarians get mad at me when I say this, but I'm totally okay with even there being a post office banking system. Even that level. The more options and choices that we have, the more trustworthy we feel in our banking system, the better, right? I hope that we have lots of options, lots of choices. I'm okay with all of those. So yeah, Roger, you and I are on the same page here.
postal banking, we had it from 1911 to 1967.
Yep.
So it worked well. It's just that Wall Street was just like, oh, we got to get this thing out of here.
Absolutely.
But,
yes.
Yes. But
absolutely.
The postal banking would be good for regular retail and stuff like that. But a public bank really would not for us to be checking and stuff like that and savings. It would be to back up the credit unions and community banks, because it's not trying to compete with credit unions and community banks, but it is trying
But there's more an important piece, Roger, that some people aren't understanding. When you build this out, by default, you will be supporting local entrepreneurs. That will happen by default, and local co-ops, both of them.
Yep, exactly.
100%.
The Philadelphia Public Banking Coalition has a thing for co-ops, like working with public banks.
100%. Excellent. Roger, thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it, brother.
All right, later.
Yep. So look, decentralization, localization, more choices, more options, all going to be good. Pick the one that works best for you and your community, and I'm happy. Am I wrong? You can tell me if you want to, or tell me I'm right, because I am. 585-346-3000. Larry Sharpe on Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. Back with your calls and your chat after the break.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Are you cold in your home? Pick up the phone and call Wise Home Energy at 270-5836. Don't be cold in your home. Pick up the phone, call 270-5836. Wise Home Energy has helped thousands of people get millions in grants and rebates to make their homes much warmer. So don't be cold in your home. Pick up the phone, call Wise Home Energy at 270-5836 today.
Wise Home Energy is a participating contractor in the Home Performance with Energy Star program.
With incompetent, devious Washington and Albany leadership and a corrupt corporate media that uses news and social to control and mislead, it's important to preserve freedom of speech and to promote a truth-based society for our families. Try something different in 2023. The WYSL stations can grow your business, professional practice, or organization, so allocate your ad dollars here. Take advantage of a huge audience entertained and informed by leading conservative thought. Affordable and effective. The WYSL stations, the voice of liberty. Call 346-3000 to advertise.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Yes, Larry Sharpe here, WYSL, Rochester, New York. Sharpe Way Radio. So happy to be here for a few moments of your afternoon. We have been talking about banking, about localization, decentralization, and how we can try to maybe fix this or make this better. I get it. What I want to bring up here is, with all of this in mind, we still have to try our best to look at our own finances and save. And I know that's not easy. I know that's easy for me to say, not easy to do sometimes. Sometimes you got bills. You got things you want to do. You got family and friends and business. I get it. But if there's a way for you to put something away, now might not be a bad time to consider that. That's all I'm saying. Things may start going bad. So let me grab a couple of comments if I can. So, all righty. Mike Ross says, we are worried about supporting your children. Please pay us thousands and lawyers thousands that could be using your children, or we will throw you in a cage where you can't support your children and make everyone pay for keeping you there. That's from the family courts. Yeah, I know a family court person didn't say that, but Mike, you are 100% correct. Our family court system is an embarrassment. We should be embarrassed on how bad it is. It only makes things worse. Let me say that one more time. It only makes things worse. It is a terrible system that should be reformed. And I know people are saying, well, Larry, why doesn't someone reform it? Because sadly, it is a profit center. Yes, the family court system makes money for the state. A lot for New York State. I think Mike is from North Carolina, probably North Carolina too. I know New York. I assume North Carolina. It is a profit center. The state makes money from our misery, and we still support it. That's some Stockholm Syndrome stuff right there. Yeah, absolutely. That is a problem. So Andrew says, end the Fed. No argument from me, Andrew. But to be forward, it is rare that I talk about ending the Fed, even though I'd like it to happen. Why? Because still to this day, most people believe in America that the Fed is saving us, that it's helping us, that it's a government agency that supports us. Now, none of that's true, but most Americans believe that. So when you say end the Fed, most Americans believe, oh, you just want to let the banks take over the world. They believe that, even though the banks have already taken over the world. So I will often talk about auditing the Fed. And the reason why I say that is, if we actually were to try to audit the Fed, Andrew, there'd be some press that would want to make enough of their name that they'd actually go through and let everyone know what the Fed actually does. And once Americans figured out what the Fed actually does, then we can edit. Then we can end it. The reality of it is, culture has to change before we get there. I want to change the culture first, then we can get there. So while I agree with you, I think my tactic is a different.
Kelly, Rochester.
How about that? Gene says, when I had my daycare, most of the families depended on state subsidies to pay for childcare. While our state government fought over the budget, I didn't get paid for most of my children in my care for a month or so each year. Wow. During those times, I depended upon my credit. Yes, very common. Eventually, the loss of income became too much. The government made sure to collect taxes from me. Even on the money, I didn't get paid though. Yes, all the time. Gene, thank you so much. So this may be the same Gene. Gene from Rochester. I'm going to grab a phone call if I can. Gene, how are you?
No, it's Kelly.
Oh, sorry, Kelly. Kelly, sorry.
Oh, hi, Larry. This is Kelly. So
Hey,
I
Kelly.
have a quick question. I'm going to ask the question. If you can answer it, I'm going to have to hang up because I drive and I'm on
Okay.
a break right now. So my question was, in regards to, like everybody's talking about the banks and that, how does a federal credit union get affected by all this? Is that different than a bank with, I don't know if I'm asking my question right.
No worries. What we're talking about is not a federal credit union. We're talking about local credit unions. And the difference is a credit union is basically co-op banking. What that means is the individual people who are putting into it all own the bank. So, for example, you could rent an apartment, in which case you don't own the apartment, but you get the apartment as you rent it, or you can buy into the corporation, a co-op, and now you own a part of the building and you get to be in the building with an apartment while you're an owner of the entire apartment building. Or you can get a condo. A condo means you don't own the building, you own the apartment. So in the case of a credit union, everyone who actually owns it, anyone who has money in it, owns the bank. It's joint ownership in the bank. So locally, that means local people own the bank. local people want to support local businesses. Local people want to support local entrepreneurs, local farmers. You increase the odds of people supporting locally, plus people have a say. You get a vote in your bank. You have ownership in your bank. That is the difference between a credit union and a bank. I hope I answered your question.
Okay. All right.
Does
So
that make sense?
how would this all be, like, will a credit union be affected by, like, what's going on with those, if there's a big problem with the banks and
Yes.
will a credit union?
Yeah. Credit unions generally, depending upon the credit union, they either could be FDIC, or if they're federal, or they actually could buy their own insurance. So they could have their own insurance for their own credit union. So they wouldn't be affected by the federal issues, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
They can be separate.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. I hope that helped. So yes, the larger banks, the bigger banks. Someone actually said earlier, this seems silly, Larry. Why did these people not spread out all their money in $250,000 in multiple banks? Because the big banks give you big benefits for having big dollars in their bank. So if you have $10 million in your bank, they will literally connect you with other people who can afford $10 million to help finance you in other things. That's why you get benefits for being in these certain banks, having lots of money in those banks. If you only have $250,000 in a bank, like that SVB bank, they don't care about you. You're one of the small guys. You're nobody. You got $100 million in that bank, they hook you up with the right people so that you can make better deals. And that may seem unethical, because it probably is, but it's still true. And I think that's an important piece. Absolutely. So I hope that answers your question. That's any time, in my view, that you are going to have more localized, democratic, small d, democratic control of a business, of a bank, of anything, it's generally going to be more fair. That's not 100% rule, but it'll be better than if just one guy or gal owns it and decides everything. And even if it's wrong, if that local credit union makes bad democratic decisions, and they might, but so might, a board of 5 rich guys or gals. They also might make a bad decision. At least if it's democratic, the people had a choice in that decision. The people who are affected had a choice in that decision. So even if it's wrong, they had a choice. And they also have a choice to fix it. Versus the big cats, the fat cats, taking all the money, making all the choices, and then getting bailed up by the government anyway. So are co-ops perfect? No. Are credit unions perfect? No, they're not. Will they make mistakes and collapse? Yes, they will. But I would argue less of them will. They will do it less often. And when it does happen, it only affects the local community. There isn't a domino effect across the entire country. So when they do fail and make mistakes, there's less damage. And they will do it less often because they'll gamble less. Because the average person isn't a gambler. Hope that makes sense. Guys, thank you so much for giving me a chunk of your afternoon. I appreciate it tremendously. I will see you all very soon.